Hey there, it's Stephanie Shea, Chief Astrologer for janspiller.com, here with Coach Val D'Ambrosio. We are in episode 5 of our series about coaching through the astrological forecast, and we get so excited about every episode. I love sharing what's going on astrologically, what energies to be aware of, and then picking Val's brain as a coach as far as what are some helpful tips to work with these energies. So we are coming into Pisces season. Pisces begins on the 18th of February and it goes all the way until the 19th of March. And there is just such a warm energy that goes along with Pisces. It's associated with compassion, creativity, and especially music. I know so many musical people who have strong Pisces in their chart, whether it's their sun sign or moon sign or another planet. Pisces is also the sign of spirituality and intuition, unconditional love, inner peace. I think of just going with the flow. You know, Pisces is such a nice water energy as far as, hey, okay, this isn't working. Let's do something different. Let's wait and see what might happen instead of always forcing things. I was just doing the April forecast and talking about how I think that April's astrology is going to reteach everybody because even after Pisces seasons ends in March, we have more Pisces astrology coming up in April. And for people who are used to forcing things to happen, they're going to have to learn that under the astrology in April, it's going to work better. Whew, to just go with the flow. So I think what I love about Pisces is the idealism and the ability to see the best in everyone. I actually think we could use more of that. We'll talk about how you might take that a little bit too far. But in general, that is a beautiful trait. And the letting go and the forgiveness, the ability of the sign of Pisces is associated with that and not hanging on to resentments. Now, Pisces season is, as I said, February 18th, but the big Pisces astrology coming up is going to be in April, and it's the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune at 23 degrees of Pisces. However, as we move through the sun in Pisces, we get into March, we're already going to start feeling the energy of this conjunction. Now, Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and Neptune is the modern ruler. So both of these planets are functioning quite well. They're at home in the sign of Pisces. And it's important to know Jupiter and Neptune only come together every 13 years. So this is a really special astrological event, and it's starting new cycles for creativity, optimism, spiritual awakening. To me, I'm seeing this conjunction as a real bright spot in 2022 astrology, and it can help uplift us and give us the hope and inspiration to navigate some of the more difficult energies, let's face it, that we're feeling astrologically this year. So it's a little bit of relief and ease. And in that, coming up in April, Venus will move into Pisces, and with Venus being considered exalted, also highly functioning in the sign of Pisces, it's going to add a really sweet tone, I think, to relationships, and it's also a really good energy for artists. Now, in mid-April, around the 14th, Mars moves into Pisces. This is not as easy of a placement. When Mars is in Pisces, it can feel at odds, and I mentioned this in the April overview video as well, because Mars wants to be direct to get something done. Pisces doesn't always like conflict. And so people may be feeling, whether or not you were born with Mars in Pisces, when the planet Mars is in Pisces, things can come out kind of sideways. Just keep an eye on passive aggressive tendencies under this astrology. But in general, I think it's going to feel pretty uplifting and like a good opportunity for people to invite something new in that they hadn't even imagined, to really see what comes to them. That's very receptive energy that goes with Pisces. Now, of course, I always mention the what I call the shadow or the out of balance Pisces traits. And again, it's not personal. All signs have this. It runs on this big spectrum. And so most of the time people are falling somewhere in the middle of this range, hopefully more on the higher expression side of things. But hey, life happens. We all have our moments, and some of these out of balance traits can show up for Pisces. I would say one of the big ones is lack of boundaries. If you're a Pisces person, you have probably heard this a lot in your life or felt it, getting sucked into other people's energy fields and losing your sense of self. So that's something I definitely want to talk to Val about. I'll give a couple other Pisces examples. Also, being overly idealistic, seeing situations through rose-colored glasses and then getting disappointed. I have my Venus in Pisces. I can relate. Yeah, I used to really expect kind of the perfect scenario, and then it was just setting yourself up. Nothing is perfect, and just we'll talk about some of those expectations, Val, for sure. And then I think with that is that thing with the reality. Once you realize, ooh, sometimes reality is more harsh than you wish it to be under this Pisces energy, people may turn to escapist behaviors, addictions, or just avoidance. And that isn't always the healthiest coping mechanism. So, Val, I would love to dive into some of these topics because I have a feeling you have seen all of this in your experience.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I love it. And when you were speaking, I could feel the hope and the inspiration that's coming. And I feel like it's like a breath of fresh air that we've all been wanting. And I'm really excited about this time, just the sweetness of Pisces energy and everything. It's just exciting. It's super exciting. So, yeah, I would say that I can definitely see these. I see these, definitely have a lot of Pisces clients and also Pisces in my life. I see that there. And also just like you said, in people in general. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, so let's go back to that first point, the lack of boundaries. This really seems like a prevalent theme with, yeah, people who are Pisces. It can happen to the best of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, a few things. I could see it show up just in simplicity. Like I think about these two Pisces in my life specifically that they kind of just are like, yeah, yeah, sure. And they just kind of go along with everyone and everything to the expense of themselves, that they don't really think about what they need. They don't really, that they end up, I see them blown out a lot. I just see them just exhausted and blown out, and then really needing to go to the excessive side of refilling their cup, but the way in which sometimes they do that is like by checking out and like watching binging on TV, or like eating like a bunch of crap, and then they feel worse, you know what I mean? But they're just so blown out and full from that energy. And then also then when I think about within relationship, and I think about this one client in particular that I'm working with, and she's in a newer relationship. It's a younger relationship, but she was really struggling with that. She realized how much attention she puts on her partner. She thinks about him, worries about him a lot and everything. And then she found that, she would be at school all day long, or, have really big full days. And then she was spending her evenings almost every single evening with him, but it would be kind of, again, falling into his world and the things he was doing. And she was really struggling because she wasn't having or putting that time toward herself. And she, then, but what I watched was, two things: is the focus being on the problem, being the relationship, right? That was one thing. But then when I got honest with her, when she got honest with herself, and I asked her, I said, but because the opposite, which we'll go into a little bit more deeper, is that otherwise she'd be either spending all of her time with him, or not having boundaries with her own self and her own time, that she would end up smoking a bunch of weed, or just like, and being lazy and sitting on the couch. That's, what she calls it, lazy, and like, chilling on the couch or whatever, not doing anything. And but what she was doing was that she was like, well, maybe it's the relationship. And I was like, well, hold on, before you were in the relationship, wasn't this happening before, but it wasn't the partner that you were going to. It was just laying down on the couch and smoking a bunch of weed, and she was like, oh, and she saw it, and so it was this opportunity to just ask her own questions, right? Like what she wanted in that moment. She wanted more connection with herself. She wanted more time alone. And so there was the invitation. And this is what I see, at least for the Pisces that I work with, is that going inside and asking ourselves the question of, okay, like what do I really need right now? And how, and what, like how can I get really honest about what's important for me right now? Because I think sometimes they don't want to ask that question because they don't want to make it about them. They want to really just kind of be there and be okay and have it be okay with everyone else around them. And then the other piece is in that alone time, like really giving themselves that permission to have the alone time, but the alone time that's going to fill them up, that's going to light them up, that's going to inspire them, that's going to support them in being the best version of themselves, whatever it is that they want. And turn to the things, like you said, usually there's an artistic aspect of the Pisces. So is it playing an instrument? Is it poetry? Is it whatever it is? But really giving yourself that time to nurture that wonderful ability that you have, and honoring that, like really letting that be the sacred place that you go to, because the more you go to that beautiful place or that creative energy inside of you, the more you get to actually show up and have an even deeper connection and be more of yourself with that person that you're having a connection with.
I really think that that's spot on for the Pisces astrology too. Is yeah, nurturing that creative piece within, honoring your intuition. I think about too, as far as kind of knowing what you need, but then maybe not trusting it or something.
Right.
And I really like how you stated having boundaries with yourself as well as with others, because we do sometimes have to set boundaries with ourselves and
Right.
for our own good, you know.
Well, and then the piece around that, even within the relationship piece, right? So, right, we're in February, the month of relationships, and there's a lot that I know astrologically aligns with that. So it's like I was even speaking with her about, it's not about like how much time you're necessarily spending with the other person. Like, what if you lived with in a relationship? What if you lived with the person, right? It's more so, can you even be in the same energy, in the same home, in the same environment with that person and not lose yourself? Meaning, like, can you still do you? Can you still give yourself permission to almost like put your blinders on and let that person be over here and be them and be totally with yourself, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're creating with yourself or for yourself in that moment. And to practice that, understanding these, when we invite these new ways of being and when we go into this internal inquiry, really remembering again and again, I just want to remind you guys, like, it is a practice. If you've been operating so far on one side of the pendulum, to swing all the way the other side of the pendulum, it's best to practice taking baby steps, and along the way just understanding, like, oh, okay, I'm learning this new behavior, and just to be gentle on yourself in that process.
Yeah, I think that, well, yeah, and that's good advice for everybody, and especially water sign people, to practice that gentle approach. So that all makes sense what you said, and it also kind of reminds me that you do work with couples as well as individuals. And so this, when I thought of this season and kind of the boundary thing and seeing situations idealistically, it reminded me a lot of relationship work as well. So this is good timing for that. And I am curious what you think about working with clients who seem to always be disappointed because whether their perfect partnership didn't come through or the perfect job opportunity, and they keep kind of falling for an illusion, that doesn't exist.
Yeah. And again, this kind of goes back to what I see again with the Pisces in my life or anything else, but giving themselves that permission to go inside and ask some deeper questions. Sometimes the questions that we ask are more closed-ended questions, like what's wrong with me, or why do I always do that? And those don't take us anywhere but down in a direction that just is more into self-shame and self-judgment, right? So it's like, two things. It's like feel the beauty that you feel, like feel the goodness and the connection, and get excited about what is being revealed. That is a beautiful thing, right? That is what you do want, right? And then simultaneously, it's almost like keep your blinders off, keep checking in with, like, okay, let me get honest with myself. Like is there like what do I really feel like my needs are being met right now? Or even like uh even, let's say, for example, they do start to see aspects of the person that maybe aren't what they thought they were, or something like that, and they go to that place of thinking that it has to be perfect, right? Instead, it's even coming to that piece of, like, well, what's beautiful about the imperfection? Or if there really is no such thing about perfect, what's the gift in this situation? So they get to look beyond the story that there's got to be a perfect, and that can almost free them up, that it has to look and be a certain way in order to always maintain that feeling and that connection. Like maybe it's not always about that, and maybe that beautiful piece is exactly what's needed to actually create deeper connection.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think about that, sometimes the shadow side of Pisces can have that victim mentality, like you're saying, why is this happening to me? And taking it out of that so they can get back in their power and definitely realize that there's a greater opportunity for intimacy during the conflict, during the things that are is does feel like a struggle, because you have to be very so real with each other. And so, yeah, again, Pisces loves the dream and the illusion, and like I said at the beginning, the part that Pisces sees the best in everybody, to me, is I love that. Maybe that's because I have Venus in Pisces,
Right.
but I do feel like people deserve the benefit of the doubt. And then also not ignoring the feelings and red flags that pop up if they do, and being able to address that as an opportunity, like you said. I think that's really good. That's some good stuff that people can take away and use.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you had said before is creating that space and that time to drop into their intuition. I don't know if that means that for the Pisces to draw away from being within relationship or having that connection and feeling like they need that in order to feel something or whatever it is that they're experiencing, but to give them time to go inside, not to check out, like what we're going to talk about in a moment, per the other shadow side, but also not to perseverate and keep thinking about, like, oh no, the imperfection, or oh no, what's the problem, or oh no, why does this always happen, or whatever. But more so to drop into their deeper essence of themselves and go, okay, like super intuitive, right? Like, how does this really feel? And whatever that comes from, whether that's a body sensation or their emotions, but there's something there that's going to give them their insight and their wisdom. But unless they create that time and that space to drop in and do that personal kind of check in, that inquiry, they could miss it and then just either get completely disappointed or beat themselves up and want to just check out.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is another thing associated with Pisces is time alone for
Mm-hmm.
meditation, reflection, getting in touch with a higher power. Like even if they're not sure where they're at, um, okay, I turn this over to a higher power to maybe give me some information. And that does usually require time alone to tune out other people's opinions, because there's a sort of porous nature to Pisces where maybe they start to take in too much. Again, it's that emotional sensitivity. And when they can get some quiet time alone, they can filter that out and see what's actually going on with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that right there, that whole piece about, you said, like, the trouble with harsh reality and like going to escape its behaviors, like avoidance or addiction or anything like that. Like that's something that I feel like I see because of their sensitivity, because of their beautiful ability to feel so deeply and intuit so deeply that, I mean, living in a world that's so loud and sensory overload, it can get almost like like overbearing. And I think about one friend in particular I met many, many years ago. I mean, an extremely intelligent, wise man, and so intuitive. And I would just love these delicious, deep conversations that we would have all the time. And just, he sees things, he just sees things. He's like, I don't know, it's just like incredible. And he lived in Chicago. And the way that, like, he would drink a lot, like really a lot, and it was an every day, and it was a way I would imagine, just understanding the Pisces nature and everything, like how deeply he feels and how much he sees and how much he knows, that it's almost like overwhelming for him, that it's easier for him to just numb it, to not feel it. Like it's almost like his way of coping with it. And so to me, the invitation again is to like the way that I look at, and these the ability to feel so deeply. I mean, this is superpower. It's such a beautiful thing. And I think when people feel so deeply, especially in a world where we're not really taught how to be with emotion, we tend to shame it or think something's wrong with us. And instead, really flipping it on its head and shifting the perspective and actually seeing like this is a superpower. And it be, since it's a superpower of mine, like how do I want to nurture it? How do I want to honor it? How do I want to learn how to be with it? And then all of a sudden we start to tend to that part of ourselves instead of trying to stuff it down or push it away or check out to it. I think that we can grow a new relationship with it and then use it to our advantage instead of try to dim it and then to actually be a disadvantage to us.
Right, right. Because, yeah, I mean, those temporary coping mechanisms, such as substances and other, they're temporary. It's like
Mhm.
we gotta have like sustainable ways of being, yeah, maybe an extra emotionally sensitive person in this world. And these are great tips for anybody, not just people in the sign of Pisces. And I think if they're in a partnership, and yeah, you have a lot of water, strong Pisces in your chart, you might have to, would you let your partner know, right, what's going on?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not a Pisces, but I know that I have something in my chart, and Stephanie could probably tell you, but
Yeah.
that really that there is that Piscean aspect in the sense of, and even if not, it's I'm a feeler, and my emotions are my superpower for sure, and in my relationships, and I'm so grateful that I'm with a partner that really understands this. But I've had to learn to express to people when I start to date them, and I just like, listen, I am a feeler. I am somebody that, like, my emotions are necessary, they will be expressed. And the worst thing that somebody can tell me is like, relax, or don't worry about, or just don't, relax, because the reason is because it's almost like I need to feel that and honor that, not to get lost in it. It's not because I'm going to overly do it or overly get lost in it. I need the safety within my own self, as well as with my closest, most intimate partnerships and friendships, like to feel safe in my expression and my release of these feelings without being shamed or without being don't feel that, or whatever it is. And it's so freeing because that much quicker they can pass, and that much quicker I can self-regulate and return back to myself. you know and so I think, like, real again, just honoring being a beautiful feeler.
Yeah, yeah. And I did have to peek in your chart because you actually have Jupiter in Pisces in the seventh house of partnership.
Oh
So
yeah.
Jupiter is ruling growth, expansion. I'd say where you experience the most learning, right? Is in freedom, I think of with Jupiter. Well, it's when you express in a Pisces way in partnership. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Flow, right? That fluidity, like you said, like that, go with the flow. So like, feelings aren't meant to be contained, right? They're meant to be flowed through and felt and released, and and it's so beautiful. And then when I think about the person that's receiving somebody that is a feeler like that to, for those that aren't Pisces, but maybe you're in a relationship with somebody that is a feeler, whether or not they're a Pisces, is to really, like, the best thing that we can do is just hold space for them. Just be like, I'm right here with you. Like, and I love you in all of your feelings. I really am here with you in all of your feelings, And then again, for our own selves, can we love our own? Like, I love myself in my anxiety. I love myself in my fear right now. I love myself in this too, because it's not like we just stop loving ourselves, or because that would tend toward the passive aggressive. That would lend toward the checking out and the harsh, going to addictions or anything like that. The more we meet ourselves, the less likely we're to swing to that side of the pendulum and go to that shadow side, and then we can step into the light.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that flow, like you say, if you block it, then some of the feelings that need to be released never will. And actually, the superpower of Pisces is letting go. And so when you let it go through there, yeah, you're less, I would think, as an astrologer, less likely to hold on to it. And this is something, it sounds so cool. You're able to help people be at peace with their emotions so that they don't block them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So much in this episode when I was looking at it, I thought, oh, this seems like really good timing right now because so much of the astrology has to do with relationships. Like there was Mars Venus conjunction that happened February 16th, and we're in store for another one on March the 6th. I just something about the energy coming up this year. A lot of people are resetting their attitudes towards relationship and starting new cycles.
Well, I would love to add to this, and maybe this is useful. And I trust everything that comes up when I get these thoughts. I'm like, I'm just going to say it. Maybe there's one person that's watching this is going to hit home with. But that's the other thing, right? Like the change and the new, like what you're talking about. And I know that we're coming up to a new astrological year, and the one thing that we know is constant is the one thing that's constant that we know is change, right? And so the thing is that even within relationship, right? We're constantly evolving. So are we in dialogue with our partner, even our friendships, truly, but with our partner as we continue to evolve to the next iteration of who we are? Because that's something too. It's like, okay, whether it's like maybe somebody's embarking onto a new career, or maybe you're in a new phase in your life, maybe you're having a child come in, or maybe it's just simply like you're just maybe you're doing some deep inner work, and you're starting to realize you're coming to see these new parts of yourself. And so it's really informing and talking to the other person about, this is like, I was just talking to my client about this. It's like they're both doing their deeper work right now, and she's realizing that there are these things that she really wants to work on that are very different from where she's been. She wants to inform our partner. Like we were talking about the value of informing our partner, like, sweetie, these are things that I'm going to start working on, and these are the things that I'm committed to, and this is what I need support around, because it's not my forte, and it's going to be a totally new world for me. And this is what when you see me, default, or you see me, whatever, and this is what I need, and this is how I need it. Right. And then what do you need, and what do you want to work on, and what are you moving toward, and how can I support you in it, and what are you willing to commit to for that? So now you're growing as a partnership in the flow of life, right? As you continue to tune into you, check in with you, what do I need, do that internal inquiry, but then also stay in dialogue and in partnership and in that connection as you're becoming this next iteration.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that in there. That, yeah, I think that communication piece, and yeah, even though, Pisces is so intuitive, that doesn't mean everyone can read everyone's mind and we have to communicate.
Right.
So that is really good, rich stuff, and I'm really happy we got to get this in. This is a great episode, and we'll of course be looking forward to the next one because that's going to be the beginning of the zodiac again, Aries.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a wrap for this time. This has been a lot of fun. Please give us your comments if you have topics you want us to address for Aries season or any other questions. We love getting feedback on these videos.
Always an honor and pleasure. Love these. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yay. Thank you. See you next time.
Okay, bye.